Hello, intuitive art friends. We are back. I'm so happy to be here weekly with you. This is so much fun. Although next week I will be on vacation, so we're taking a little break. But I have Carrie Roldan here. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy, and Carrie came up with the topic this week, and I think it's really brilliant, truly relevant, especially after the year that we've been through in close quarters with people. So we're going to talk about what it is like dealing with others while you are on this journey of vibrational living or awakening, evolving, whatever you call the journey that you're on right now. You probably feel like you're a little bit more awake or a lot more awake than a lot of the people you see. And how do you deal with that? What do you do? You know, what can you do? Is it about you? Is it about them? So we're going to get into all of it. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we'll talk about it. So thanks, Carrie. What brought this up for you today?
I don't know. Nothing. And I was just thinking about what would be a relevant topic. And I think part of it was around today is a memorable day in my life, but particularly in the life of someone who I'm close to. It was one of the athletes that I coach a year ago today. I got a text from my daughter saying, "Oh my gosh, Lily's dad hanged himself." And so that was like unbelievable and traumatic. So I think I was there thinking about him, right? I was thinking about this guy and where he was at the moment that he did that, but more importantly, what he's been doing this year, and where he is today and how's that going. And that led me down the path of, so my feeling about him is, that was his journey, right? For whatever reason, that was the way that he chose to leave the planet. And I have no judgment around that. And so I was just sort of in this place of neutrality, but thinking about how our journeys affect each other and how I was thinking about his daughter and where she is and how she is and who she is and how this has shaped her. And I was sort of looking at the perfection of all of it, but that got me into the thinking about this, which is I know that so many of us, we get on this personal growth or spiritual growth journey and we get really excited, like, I'm in control. I can choose my destiny. I can create my reality. And then like for me, I remember reading my personal growth and like writing in the comments, like, "Oh, this is so-and-so," or "So-and-so needs to read this," right? Like then immediately projecting outward. And yeah, exactly what you said. This year has definitely been a challenge as we have been stuck with people. I don't know if stuck's the right word. My people are my family. I'm stuck with them either way. And I love them. But like in really close proximity with some people who maybe have shown us some contrast. Maybe it's been a challenge to hold the kind of vibration that we would like to hold. So I just wanted to talk about all of it. Like, what are people's tendencies? Yeah, I just want to talk about all of it. So anything that I just said hit you, Rachel?
I mean, all of it, yeah. Like with back when I would say in the beginning half of my coaching career, this was the topic. How can I be myself around other people? And like, because my husband doesn't support me, because blah, blah, blah thinks this, or because it's against my religion or whatever. And I remember a long time ago, I heard Teal Swan, one of her videos, she was saying, like, if you can't be yourself around other people, then you don't have a people problem, you have an authenticity problem. Because you are the one deciding not to be yourself in a certain situation. So it's always a personal choice. And what I love about this last year was we didn't really have a choice. We could continue being ourselves, even though there were new people around, or shut down, right? That's like the two options. Be yourself or don't be yourself, but it's always our choice. And of course, there are extreme circumstances here where like you're a teen and your family doesn't support you coming out and being your authentic self, or you'll get kicked out or worse. I get that. But for most of us, what we're talking about here is just a choice of doing the scary thing sometimes, and choosing to be our authentic self no matter who's around or what we think they will think of us. And I remember being mad at that video when I saw it, and I was like, that's not true, right? There really are people who blah, 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 but it's the truth. We have the full opportunity to be ourselves and to be comfortable with it. And that can really take a while to get there. I know it did for me. Even just 4 years ago, I was kind of blaming my partner for me not feeling at home at my home. Like, oh, he doesn't get it. He doesn't, believe any of this. He thinks this isn't true. And so I thought I couldn't talk about it or be it anywhere near him. But that's not true. And it's not true for anybody. Why? We'll get here, I'm sure. But I don't want to stay here for now, because we're the creators. We create how our family treats us. We create what they think of us. We create the situations that we're in. We create the judgments that we are attracting to us. So yeah, but it's a long learning curve for sure.
Well, so I really like where you're going. Like I really like where you're going with that, and I agree. Let's take a step back. So let's assume that we know that. Let's assume that we're super excited by that, or maybe we don't, because I believe that there's knowing and there's knowing. So let's assume that we're somewhere between here and here in the knowing of like, I'm the creator of all of it, right? I create my whole life, my whole experience. Because I know my tendency is like, ooh, I created that. I sure as hell didn't create that over there, right? Like, ooh, I created that thing that I love. That's so-and-so's created that. And right. And our realities are merging. So I think that is maybe that is a good place to start. I feel like there's two places. There's one that is, but I didn't really create that because I don't like that, right? Like I wouldn't create that. And there's this other thing that is just sort of tickling, and maybe this is where we need to go, because I think it's about what you were talking about with you and your partner, where it's like, I really do want to consciously create. I really do want to stay in this high vibration. Like every day I get up and meditate, and when I go on my walk, it feels so good. And I put essential oils in the shower, and I listen to good music. And then, so and so calls and ruins my day. And then someone else walks into the room, or like you were saying with your partner, you felt like there was that whole side of you that you could only be in a little box. And I know that I have felt that too. And I have also blamed, right? Like, I could totally keep my high vibration if so-and-so wasn't such a turd, right? So maybe that's where we need to start.
Starting with the turds. There
right.
we go.
So I guess the question is, how does one who finds themselves in that situation, right? We find ourselves in the place of like, man, I am living so deliberately, except when I'm around that guy. Where do they start?
Well, even in a situation not like this, even when in a situation where like I don't feel like my partner is doing what they want to be doing, I don't think my partner is living the life they could be living. Anytime we feel like there's something wrong with someone else, or that we have to change for someone else, we are thinking about someone else in a way that doesn't benefit us, right? Like that's the theme here. Like I'm thinking that I need to do something different around that person. And in that case, our thoughts are what is creating the whole problem. So I always bring it back to like, okay, before you see them, before you're even thinking about them, at the beginning of your day, put a little scenario in your head that's the way you want it to be. Like, think about you showing up in all your glory in front of them and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Or asking questions or whatever you'd want to happen. See that happening. Prepave it on a regular basis. And then when you're not doing that specific thing, when you're not in those 5 minutes of thinking that way, let it go and don't worry about it. And don't try to force anything in any other amount of time. Let them be who they are, but try to only focus on the positive aspects of them. They're in your life for one reason or another, so just focus on that and let things evolve naturally. Let your new thought program create the scenario that you will find more pleasing to you, because it's your thoughts that are generating that behavior or that expectation in you.
And you and I both have experience with this. So, one, that idea of pre-paving, right? The idea of pre-paving is just thinking about what's going to happen, right? Imagining ahead of time what will happen. And we all like to do this idea of pre-paving deliberately, right? So you're visualizing or you're thinking about a conversation, what you're going to say. Then I don't know, a lot of people write what they're going to say and then what you're going to say, right? Like we kind of just as humans, we do that. And I know we do it very deliberately when we're like, I want to visualize the best possible outcome, or I want to think about, but I want to go to the other side of that, which is how often we prepave what we don't want. And I know, like, I went through this so much in my growth journey where I would like, well, they're going to be like this. Well, this is how they react. And it took me a long time. And I would prepave a conversation of like, because my expectation of the other person was their disapproval of me, or they're not understanding me, or they're anger with me, or whatever it was. Like I would prepave what I didn't want without even knowing it, because it had so much momentum that it was like, well, this is just how they are. And I remember working with you and with other coaches and them saying, well, you know, what would it be like if, or what would, and I found myself so often arguing for like, well, that would be freaking amazing, but that's not how it goes. And right. Like, and it took me a while to recognize, oh, I'm pre-paving what I don't want. That whole conversation in my head. And I was so good at it, by the way, when I was feeling really resentful. Like I would have like angry conversations in my head, and then I'd realize like, what am I doing? I'm creating. This is the stuff we're talking about when we're like, oh, I created that over there, but I sure as heck didn't create that. It's like, oh yeah, you did actually. You created it right now. Like even in the thinking about, I would never create that because blah 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 blah. Oh crud, I'm creating it. So it took me a while to recognize I'm always prepaving all the time. I do it regularly. It's a question of, am I being deliberate about what I'm choosing to think about is possible happening? And it was shocking to me how quickly, when I was deliberate about prepaving something a little bit better, like I wasn't making drastic jumps. I was like, well, maybe they'll be indifferent, or maybe they'll be open. You know, it wasn't like maybe they'll be my raving fan. And like, it wasn't that. It was like, well, it's possible that this could happen. It's possible that, and very quickly things snowballed in the other direction. And I think that's what's, I guess, encouraging about this is for anybody who's feeling like whether you can't be yourself or you can't pursue what you want, if there's some can'ts because of other people, it's just a matter. And I know this is going to sound kind of hard because it's a matter of thinking, changing the way you think about that other person.
And caring about yourself enough to do this, because this isn't even about them. This is about you. Caring enough about your well-being, about your freedom, about your right to be yourself, to create an environment that is welcoming of that, right? Like it's about you.
And it's about believing what you believe, right? Like I recognize, oh, all this blaming and projecting and all the stuff that I'm doing, right? That it's really about, I was just placing limitations on myself because if I believe what I believe, right? Like how would I behave if I truly believed that? What would I be thinking if I truly believed that I'm creating my life? How would I be thinking about that person? Oh crud. I'm not thinking about that person that way. So if I really believe what I believe, then man, I need to start walking my talk.
And it's immediate. Like Carrie was saying, like it starts happening as soon as you change. A short story about this. I don't know, 5, 6 years ago or something, we were going to have a holiday meal with some relatives, and these relatives didn't, I never really felt super welcome. And it just like, I feel like I scared the dude in the situation like for years, and he never really talked to me much. And it was just a little awkward. And, I have like dietary restrictions. So going to have a holiday meal somewhere is like kind of stressful enough. And I really wanted it to go better than it had gone last time because it didn't go very well. We ended up leaving like before we were supposed to, which is, I mean, not anything I want to do. I'm super non-confrontational. So I decided to prepave this engagement, and I prepaved in the morning, just, that day, just before we left. And I was saying to myself things like, I'm going to feel so comfortable and welcome, and we're going to have such a great time. I'm going to love the food. There'll be like super yummy things for me to eat, and I'm not going to want to leave. It's just going to be an amazing day. And when I got there, as soon as I got there, the woman and her friend were there, and they were like, "Oh, Rachel, we have to get your opinion on this." And they drove me downtown to this friend's new office, and they're like, "Tell us how the energy feels in here, and tell us what your thoughts are about her starting this business." And like they were acknowledging my super special abilities and who I really am. And that had never, ever, ever happened before. And then we had a great meal, and we went in the hot tub and in the pool. And it was just so much fun and a completely different experience. And it was because of me, right? They were capable of that the whole time. It's just that, things happen. We have weird expectations we don't know about, and who knows? But when you take the reins, as Christina says, haha, starting with the turds. Yeah, those turds can turn into, diamonds or whatever is a more pleasant way of saying that kind of thing.
I know there's some sort of colloquialism about polishing a turd, but I can't remember what it is. So, yeah, Rachel, that's what I'm thinking about is how quickly it happens when it happens. Rachel's talking to her cats at the moment. Um, how quickly it happens when it happens and how it is just you. And one of the things that helped me was I heard somewhere that the strongest energy in the room wins. And at first, when I heard that, I was like, bummed, like, ah, so and so's energy is stronger than mine.
I think I remember telling you that.
Oh, so it was you who said that. Okay. The strongest energy in the room wins. And I was like, ah, why is theirs stronger than mine? Because I'm like, I got strong energy, right? And people would tell me, you light up the room, Carrie. When you show up, everything changes. So why was this one person deflating me? Why was that one person like, how could they get me every freaking time? And then I realized, I remembered, right? You can't even note it. You can't experience something unless part of you is in alignment with that, right? Unless it's active in you somewhere. So once I realized, like, oh man, this person continues to activate that thing in me, like whether irritation or frustration or resentment or whatever it is, right? This person continues to just turn up the volume on that in me. Then it helped me. It took a while, but it did help me then own the strongest energy wins. what energy, right? This is some strong energy. They've got it. Clearly, I've got it because it's activating. What energy do I want instead? Right. And I remember like Oprah talking about, she had a sign that said, like, take responsibility for the energy that you bring into this room or that you bring into this meeting. And those things sort of coalesced for me to where I was able to recognize, oh, the strongest energy in me in this moment is winning. And that person over there, for some reason, symbolizes it's the trigger, right? To turn on that energy that I'm ready to let go of, that I don't want to be present. Like, and the Wayne Dyer would say, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And I was like, not, I think what I was doing previous to that was looking at things like through kind of an eye roll, like, okay, you're awesome, you're a nice person. Like, and when I finally like really looked for whether it's, I'm just gonna like be dropping quotes for a minute, but there's, and you have a tail in your face. There's something about, we judge others on their behavior and we judge ourselves by our intentions. So I started to be in the practice of, like, when someone else's behavior was awful, I would think about, well, what intentions could they have to create this behavior, right? What intentions besides what I'm assuming, right? What good intentions might promote this behavior? And as I was able to do that, I was able to change the way I looked at things, which then changed the energy that I was in. And that's the big thing. It's not like that just like trying to look at something different makes that thing change. It's that when you move up your vibrational scale, when you change the energy that you're marinating in, things have to change. That's like, the things around you have to change. And that is, I think, what is fun and cool about, we started like, how do I be on this journey of feeling better and living vibrationally if there's people around me who aren't on the journey? If they are, everyone around you is on the journey. It's just if they're conscious of it or not. So that's where I am.
Gosh, yeah, totally. And I love that you brought up the perception. I think about this all the time because it's so profound when you realize that nothing is objective. People's behaviors, you are the one perceiving them. They may have tried to be nice to you or something with the purest of heart, like handing you a glass of water when you are thirsty because you asked for it. And if you're in a bad mood, you could be like, oh God, you're giving me your old water? Or what did you do? Like, drink half of it? Why isn't it full? Or like, why do you think I can't get it myself? Right? We've all been there. And so when we look at the world and we think people are being mean to us or judging us or critical of us or are not doing the right thing themselves, we need to ask ourselves, where am I standing right now? I'm only noticing the negative from here, so I must be there too, like you were saying. And when we are truly in that place of alignment and high vibration, we're only focused on the positive. We can only see the positive. And so we're only attracting the positive. And then if we go back to a place of expecting the negative, like, we have dropped down. And so that's why, again, this is so internal. It's so internal. Where are you standing from? Because that is what you'll see. And that's what you'll feel. And that's what your reality will be. That will be your truth because it feels like the truth no matter where we are, right? So how then? How do we move? We can prepave, of course. We can focus on the positive aspects that are already around us. What do you appreciate? What are you grateful for? Focusing on that, even just for a few minutes each day, helps you raise up to where you want to be and see more good things and attract more good things and expect more good things. And, daily meditation, it cuts the resistance. It stops the momentum of those negative expectations. And so over time, they just go down and down and down and down because you're not adding to them as frequently without break, right? It's like, do you have mental loops? Do you have overwhelm? Do you have confusion? Well, meditate just even a little bit each day and it'll lessen the momentum of that. And, live life. Like, even I know a lot of truly remarkable, clear, beautiful souls who are still focused on simply like learning head down, what's wrong with me? How can I be better? And we all go through that phase, I think. But life is for living. Like, what lights you up? What do you love doing? How do you love spending your time? What would you enjoy having more of in your life? Like, dig into this experience. Like, there's nothing wrong with any of us. Like, when I look at people fully, like Intimate Alien looks at people as their full, complete divine self. If there's a block or like a misalignment or whatever it is, it's like this big compared to our huge, non-physical, amazing self. Like, there's nothing wrong with us. Where are we pointing our focus? That is how we will perceive the world. So if you think there's like a lot wrong with you that you need to clear and fix and change, or that there's a lot wrong with the world or people that you need to clear and fix and change or help and save, like any of that stuff, that's still a focus on the negative. And once you move over to really focusing on the positive within yourself, the world, other people, life, situations, filling it with the things that light you up and bring you joy, or at least help you feel a little bit better, or go to neutral if you're really working on it, life will drastically change, and how others think about you will fade over time for sure. Like what you care about.
Okay, today is such a funny day in our world for Rachel and I, because if you're watching us on YouTube or anywhere else, there are pets everywhere. Rachel's cats are going crazy. My dog has been like wandering around whining. So in, interesting moment, pet wise in our lives. But okay, what you brought up, it reminded me that I think I talked about this last time that we talked, that there was a time in my life where I needed to be better than other people, right? And the need to be better than other people was about actually feeling enoughness in myself, right? Somehow if I could be better than them, and it wasn't, I don't know if there was just like, I felt like if I could somehow feel superior, that I would feel good, right? That I would feel okay. And I had a friend kind of say, well, there's nothing wrong with any of us. And I was like, what are you talking about? Right? There's a lot wrong with a lot of people. And it was recognizing, like, actually, until I can be unconditional and not judgmental and just come from a place of love when I'm looking at the world, when I'm looking at other people's behavior, when I'm looking at every situation, but particularly people who like really got under my skin, right? Or people who my way of wanting to feel superior to them was to look at all the things that are wrong with them and how they could be better, right? The people who, when I was reading my self-help books, was like, they need to read this. Like, if they would read this, my life would be better, right? When I could approach them, and I say could, but I mean can. Like, let's face it, we're all still working on it. But when I can approach those situations from, like lots of people would say detachment, but there's detachment involved, but it's really just unconditional love, right? Not until I can look at other people and realize there's nothing wrong with them could I like find some sort of love for myself, right? I couldn't be, and maybe for other people it's the other way. Maybe not until people can find love for themselves can they look at other people and say that there's nothing wrong with them. There's a dog here. But that's how, that was like a massive shift for me, was recognizing, oh, there's nothing wrong with any of us. We're all beautiful, and living out this. I think it was helpful to know, for me to know, like Abraham says, you can't get it wrong and you'll never get it done. And so recognizing like, oh, we're all just doing stuff and learning and choosing. That was another big thing. I don't know if I've ever talked about this with you, Rachel, but early in my marriage, I had like a panic of like, oh no, I want to grow. I don't know why. I literally have no idea where this came from. But like really early in our marriage, like, I mean, within months of being married, I was like, I want to grow. I want to get closer. I want to be better. I want, like, I would like, was like into personal growth, but also just like us growing together as a couple. And somewhere I got this idea that if I changed at all, if I grew at all, then I wouldn't be the person he fell in love with. And I don't know why I'm telling you that story now, but that was like a big deal. It was like, oh crap. That was a story I told myself. If I change it all, if I grow it all, if I anytime in the next rest of my life think or be or behave differently, then I won't be the person that he fell in love with. What the heck? I don't know why I'm telling you that now, but there it is.
I mean, it's funny and not funny, but I mean, you've overcome that, I know. But I had the situation where that I must have believed that too, because I manifested that in my marriage, where it was already bad at this point for several years, but like he was always like, don't change, never let anything or anyone change you. And I remember one day we had this like iconic fight, I'll never forget it. And he was like, why do you want to change? And I was like, because I'm miserable. Like, yeah, I think I had an epiphany at that point. Like, oh, wait, change isn't bad. Like, change is growth, change is new, change is life. Like, we can't put our hands up forever and try to stop that and still be happy. And I really made a huge leap forward in that moment of recognizing that, because it just flowed out of my mouth. I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't able to like comprehend that yet. And it was amazing. So there are so many beliefs about change and other people, and sometimes maybe they're true. Maybe that person won't love you if you change, but then there's something else happening. It's not your fault that there's a problem in the relationship, you know?
And like change is I'm like super cliche today,
I
but
love it.
change is the only constant.
Yeah.
Like it's the only constant. And I remember, I think that I am super fascinated by this, and I realize we're going a slightly different direction than when we started, but when do we not? But I'm super fascinated by the fact that our bodies, like our biology, there is literally not one single cell in my body that is the same, that is still present from when I had that feeling early in my marriage, right? Like supposedly every 7 years, every part of you is different. So one, I think it's so amazing that we continue to look the same and kind of age the way that we expect to age, or that our parents aged, knowing like this whole set of cells is not even the same, right? And on the one hand, we could be like, yeah, these are saggier cells. On the other hand, we could be like, I could totally grow like an ear right here, or I could, like, the possibilities are endless. So I'm super fascinated by that. But it's also really helpful to think like, and I am literally not the same person. Like that, I know I coach high school athletes, and occasionally I'll have to remember that when I see them as adults or whatever, like they aren't even like there's a part of them that grew, and that, but like I see them through a lens that they barely remember. And that can happen in our lives too, right? There's a point where, had you and I chosen to stay in that momentum of this is who I am, this is who I've chosen to be, this is how it is. And that's where I wanted to go with this. Is like, so many times I will be in conversations with people who, they're not my clients, they're just sort of like people that for whatever reason they start talking about something, and I will go into carry mode, which is like, but isn't it amazing that at any moment you could choose for it to be different? And people will say, I'm not like you, Carrie. I can't do that. Well, that's just how I am, because that's how I've always been. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you are, because that's how you've always been. But you could right now choose to be different, and then you could be different from here on out. Uh, Again, I have no idea why I'm rambling, but there I am.
No, I like where this is going. I like that it's free flowing like this, because we've already said basically everything there is to say about the first thing, It's like, we're the creators. How, in this case, how we see ourselves has everything to do with what we get out there. Do we feel like we're free to evolve as people? Do we feel like we have to be the same person we were a few years ago, or yesterday even? The greatest joys that I find in my life come because I don't feel constrained about who I was yesterday. If something pops up into my world that I never considered before, I'm not that kind of person. I would never do that. But here it is, and it feels exciting or curious or something, I'm going for it. I never, ever wanted to be in entertainment. I never, ever, ever considered being a screenwriter. I never, ever, ever, ever thought my life would involve extraterrestrials or dressing up like an alien and channeling one. Like, I'm strange, but that was a new frontier for me, all of that. That was something I'd never thought about, never considered. If you told me I would be doing that 10 years ago, I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, and you know what? They are the brightest spots in my life. And because I'm willing to not hold myself to be a fixed person with fixed interests and fixed ways to look and all of that, I identify myself as the energy that flows through me. And if the energy that flows through me brings me an idea, an inspiration, a curiosity, I'm going to flow with it if it feels good to me. And I'm going to know that it will bring me to wherever more joy is.
And I think so that brings up, I don't know where this started, but I had an idea when you were talking about people wanting to be better, right? That you said, when you look through the eyes of Infinite Alien and you see these incredible souls, these bright lights, these people who are beautiful, amazing, magical, and they're busy looking for what's wrong with themselves. um, that is going to lead me to where you're talking about, where, yeah, you could do that, right? Because it's where you're putting your focus. You're going to keep finding things that are wrong with you. Or you could do what you just said, right? You could choose to recognize that I'm going to say like the real you, right? Because the real you is always guiding you through how you feel. And if something lights you up, is because that is the real you, right? It's not like, how do I mold myself into a better person by, I don't know, changing these habits or dropping 20 pounds, or, like, it's about, oh, how do I just lean into more of the real me? And I think part of that happens for us as we get older. Like, I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning. We were talking about what we were like as young moms. And I was remembering feeling, I actually remembered another mom literally threatened me, which was a whole thing. But it was because I felt so insecure and so judged all the time. particularly around my son. He was a handful and he had a ton of energy. And uh, I, I think I felt like other people were judging me because of the way that he behaved. And so I was in this like conflict of already being on this path and knowing I don't want to stifle him, right? I want him to follow his inspiration and also not trusting my own. Like anyways, all that to be said is I manifested, I created that, right? At the time, I would have said, why would I create a mom? Like, literally, she was like, if your kid does that to my kid again, I will fight you. Can you imagine? But like, I at the time would be like, I did not create that. But I sure as heck did, because there was that internal thing in me. I was looking at, how are they judging me? What am I doing wrong? How can it be better? Instead of trusting, he wouldn't be my kid if I wasn't the right mom for him. He wouldn't be here. And leaning more into what felt good for me as a parent and trusting, like, it's okay for me to say yes to this and no to that, and yes to this today and no to this tomorrow. And it is okay to truly just listen. I think this is a yoga with Adrienne thing, but she always says, find what feels good. And like, yeah, that's that's what we're all doing all the time. And it sounds so simple. And it seems, I think lots of us have been conditioned not to do that. The right thing, the polite thing, the appropriate thing isn't that. But I don't know about you, Rachel. Like, it's never steered me wrong to be like, you know what, feel better? Whether it's leaving Thanksgiving dinner, or my husband does this a lot now, and I've recognized, oh, because this is what feels better for him, where I will be down some usually like PMS fueled cranky path, and he'll be like, I just don't want to fight with you. And I'm like, but but like that's what he's doing, right? He's finding what feels good. He's like, listen, I don't know how this started. I just don't want to fight with you. I love you. I'm gonna walk away.
I know. That's another thing, right? It's like when someone is already doing something or asking something from us, we can't prepave. It's too late. We're in it. What do? We do the thing that honors us. It makes us feel better. There was this one time where I was invited onto a podcast. It was a pretty well-known podcast. Hey, Carrie. Carrie Collingham's here. I was invited. I showed up at the time specified. It was a Zoom link. Cameras were off when I popped in. Like sometimes that happens. I turned my camera on, or I turned my mic on. And I don't know why, because she was already there, because it was her podcast. I just waited quietly for her to welcome me or greet me or say hi or something. Because it chimes when you come in, like there's obviously I'm there, and I'm just a quiet person. I've never met this person before. So anyway, I waited for 10 minutes. I waited for 15 minutes. And then finally I was like, maybe I said something. Yeah, no, because we did end up talking. I said something, or I chatted something. I put something in the chat, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go now. Bye. Like, and she ended up talking to me, and I'm like, what? Like, you're there? I was there for 15 minutes. 15 minutes. And she's like, okay, well, do you want to start? And I was like, you know what? I don't want to start, but thank you for having me, and see you later. And then she ended up going on to record the podcast without me. But she said, this is a woman who walks her talk. This is a woman you should follow. This is a woman who's in integrity, because we had this really weird thing happen. And, frankly, I didn't want to do the podcast either, she said. And so this is a tribute to Rachel Archelaus, who you should go follow.
That's amazing.
Weird situation, but okay, great. We both got something out of it.
Okay, I have to know, and I know this isn't like on topic, but did she know you were there?
Yep. She was waiting for me to say something.
I mean, passive aggressive much, but also I'm so glad it worked out, right? Like, clearly that was the interaction that she needed to be like, yeah, there was a reason I asked her to be on. Like, I'm just wondering how many, like, this is where you and I talk about this all the time. When you act in alignment with yourself, when you are choosing what is best for you, it is always best for everyone, right? And that took me a long time, when it would be like, oh, I made a commitment and I have told so and so we'd meet today or whatever. And like slowly but surely I got better at being like, hey, I could still meet today if you really want to, but it's actually not the perfect time for me. Could you reschedule? People would be like, oh my God, yes, actually next Thursday's so much better. Like, it always was working out for both of us. So then I would get bolder and just be like, hey, I have to cancel today. And people would be like, oh, thank God. I was like, yes, this is working. But yeah, we don't know why. You may never know why that interaction was exactly what that woman wanted and needed and was like perfect for her. But all you had to do was honor yourself. This is like the fun thing about being human, I think. Um, and in the line of work that I'm in and the way that I like show up for people, it's been really fun when people will remind me years and years later. Yeah, that one thing that you said, and I have zero recollection of it. It was a game changer for me. It changed everything. You said that one thing to me and I still hear you in my head or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I mean, yeah, yay. But it's just about like when you choose to live and not give a crap what other people think, really not give a crap be kind, but not give a crap what other people think. It always works out for everyone when you honor yourself. And I think that especially women, we haven't been taught that from young kids, right? We're taught be nice, be polite, be small, don't be offensive, like all of those
Be
things.
helpful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's helpful? Honesty. um, yeah. So, anyways, I'm like so happy about that story, that it was super awkward and that she didn't like, that she went live with the podcast and freaking fell in love with you. Amazing.
I know, super unexpected, because I did have that thought or that worry before I said, you know what, I really don't want to do this, that like, oh, this lady's going to think I'm like the worst person in the world. But no. So, and that's just the case. It's like, I like to say, like, the truth disarms. When you speak your truth, what is anyone going to do about that? It's your truth. They can't argue with you. And when it is really your truth and authentic, there's nothing controversial. There's no confrontation to resonate within someone. When you give them their truth, the truth from them resonates. So it's scary. I've spoken my truth in so many scary ways over the years, ways that have altered every single thing about my life, and have worked myself up sometimes for years to do it. But every single time I get to the moment where I actually say it, it's the best thing I could have done. And, sometimes I needed that build up, and that's okay. And sometimes I say it right away, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong way to live your life. But getting the practice in, like Carrie was saying, it really just, it helps you to build up some confidence there, to know that regardless of what it is, how scary you think it might be to have the conversation or to say what you want to say, or just to be your own truth in your life, it's totally worth it, because now you are living in your integrity, in your alignment, in your fullness, and you're altering the DNA of your reality.
Well, people always like often, right? When I talk to people about what are your goals and why do you want that and how would it make you feel to have that, right? The answer is I would feel free, right? Oh, I feel so free. If only I had a bajillion dollars, then I would feel free. And like, I don't know, but being your, I do know, I feel really free, really free. Just choosing to know that I'm enough, and if it's good for me, it's good for everyone. Like that's game-changing stuff. And I'm looking at the comments and Carrie calling him saying that I'm running into that a lot right now. She says, having to remind myself, so high five for reminding yourself, not to give a crap about what other people think. And yeah, I am totally still in it because I'm married to someone who gives a crap about what other people think of me. So even though I'm like, I'm gonna be me, I'm gonna be unapologetic because I know the truth of who I am is I am kind. I may sometimes be, I feel like, I really do feel like so often I say the unpopular thing, the thing that I think is going to be unpopular, but I can't help but not say it, right? So I'm like, I don't want to be the, I don't want to be that girl again, but here I am being that girl again because it's my truth. And instead of people being like the majority of people are like, oh, thank God you said something, I was too afraid. Right. So that's sort of been my story my whole life. So I've built up that muscle, right? But yeah, when you remind yourself not to give a crap about what other people think, because the most important approval is the approval of yourself, right? I approve of how I'm showing up in this situation. And the only times that we get out of integrity are when we show up in a way we think we should, or like socially acceptable, or whatever it is, but we don't actually approve of ourselves showing up that way. So where it is happening for me right now, just to like bring it back to reality, and I'm looking at the time, Rachel, I see we're almost up, but I told you guys about the kindergarten mom. I think it was pre-K. So it was like TK. Like our kids were almost 5 or just turned 5. The mom who was like threatening me to like, I don't know, like fight me in the parking lot. She's like, we are going to have problems. I was like, what? But my response to her was love. Like I was like, listen, I'm not going to fight you. And honestly, I don't even have the capacity to have this conversation. I love your kid. My kid loves your kid. I'm really sorry that happened, but I don't even have the attention span for there to be beef between us. Everything changed in an instant. Like I didn't get all defensive about like, well, your kid was the idiot, or I don't even know what it was, right? I was just like, listen, I'm sorry. I'm barely hanging on. I can't judge you. And if you're judging me, I can't even like, I just can't. And so, and things changed. And right now it's happening. My kids, I am not a club sports mom. Club sports are they're a big production. They're like a lot of, I'm not a club sports mom. So everybody whose kid does travel baseball or club volleyball or like all the things, club soccer, I salute you. It's not my jam. Like that's not who I am as a mom. And my son is in club volleyball right now. And man, I feel like they're asking a lot of unreasonable things. And there's this whole chat and this like, and I am just constantly telling the truth unapologetically without a care about what other people think. And partly because I'm like, I don't really know these people, but also because my truth is, wow, is anybody else like think this is a lot to expect of families? Whoa, 2 tournaments in 2 different cities in one day. That seems like kind of a lot. Like I'm just saying the things, not caring if I look like that lady. Because I know, like, okay, maybe this isn't my jam. Or when they're asking, oh, this is a big one, actually, asking for volunteers. I have gotten so good at being like, I'm not the lady you want in that job. Like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Thank you so much to those people who are doing it. there's other places I will volunteer, right? But like just owning, I don't want to do that. And so I'm not gonna, because it's not good for anybody if I do something that I don't want to do. It's total freedom. Total freedom.
Yeah. I love that. I know, like a lot of people think that money will give them that feeling of freedom, but I think they've proven like over a certain amount of money per year doesn't really make a difference in your happiness. Like, yes, if you can't survive, if you can't feed yourself or your kids, if you don't have stable housing, money is definitely going to make you happier, help you find happiness, right? But I think it's over, was it 60,000 maybe? Or
I'm sure it depends on where you live, but it is like basic human need, kind of like
yeah,
base level satisfaction money. Beyond that,
you're on your own, right? Like
yeah.
it's internal. It is internal. And I was just having this conversation with a client too. It's like, it's more about the feeling, because once you really find alignment, money doesn't, it's not one for one anymore. You get more value without having to pay for it. There are discounts, there are points, there are gifts, there are all kinds of things that happen in your world that it's not just about money, it's about attraction, it's about allowing. And if you need the money to be a certain number in order to feel something, your happiness is very conditional. So you brought up unconditional love earlier, and we can bring up unconditional happiness, unconditional freedom, unconditional everything. It's all internal, and you are all of those things regardless of what's in your outer world. And when you make that flip of, my job is to prepare my inner landscape with the feelings that I want to feel, and then they have to show up in my world. And that's it. That's it. That's as easy as it gets. And taking the time each day to do that, find the feelings that you want to feel them in your body, pretend, play dress up in those feelings. That does so much.
That's my favorite thing you said today. Play dress up in those feelings. I love it.
Yeah. What does RuPaul say? Like, we're born naked and everything else is drag. So we've got those feelings to put on too. Okay, well, I guess we're there. We're at the end. And this was such a fun conversation. I really liked it. Thanks, Carrie.
I know. I'm secretly scared because I feel like whatever. I was going to say I'm secretly scared because I feel like I shared kind of a lot, like from like this drama that's happening and that drama that's happening. Like, oh boy, did I just open up a can of worms. And it felt right to do it, so it must be right.
Yeah, you were smiling the whole time. All right. Well, do what feels good. If you take anything away from today, I love that, Carrie. It's so simple. And we'll see you next time. And don't forget, Aligned Up Levels coming back April 1st and 2nd. You'll get an invite very, very soon. And if you'd like to join me and Carrie in our multidimensional abundance coaching group, please come join us. We'd love to have you. It is at intuitiveart.com/membership. All right. Well, see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Carrie. Bye, Christina. Thanks for coming.